What's going on, paranormal people? Man, we had a better intro the first time when we didn't go live, but apparently we thought we were live for the last 10 minutes, and apparently we weren't streaming live. So we were sitting here talking away, guys. Anyways, I'm Josh Morris. Welcome to the Paranormal Council. And joining me on the council is Stacy Talich and Sean Carter, and missing is Bob Fountain. Bob tried to join us, but unfortunately he's having audio issues and sounds like a demon. We thought we had this worked out, but unfortunately the demon is back. So we may be doing some exorcism on the show tonight. I don't know. We might have to help out poor Bob there. So anyways, guys, thank you for joining me. Thank you for joining the show. Sorry it's late. We honestly thought we were streaming like 10 minutes ago. So apologies, that's my fault. Somehow it didn't start streaming. Bob just texted me. He said he's trying to work on getting there. So as we're waiting on Bob, guys, let's go ahead and dive into some topics. For those of you, just to give you a quick summary of the show. The show normally is made up of four of us: myself, Sean Carter, Stacy Talich, and Bob Fountain. Each of us have our own unique experiences and expertise. Myself, I'm a ghost hunter / paranormal researcher. I tend to be a little bit of in between some things, and also a little bit of entertainment side of things. Stacy does a whole numerous side of things. Witchcraft, all kinds of fun stuff. Remote viewing, and Sean Carter is our religious aspect of things, but he does so many other things because he researches, he's knowledgeable, he's helped people. Great guy all around. And Bob Fountain, he's kind of like our by the books and overall comedy relief, oddball guy, but his team is always by the book. Takes lots of notes and does a lot of cases. So it's good to have a little bit of experience all around. So I'm always excited about that. And just to let you know, on this show, we're not forcing you to believe a certain way. Okay, this is the disclaimer part. We're just expressing how we feel about things. Okay, not so much saying that whether it's right or wrong to believe in certain things. Some people don't believe in certain things. Some people believe in others. We're not telling you whether that's right or wrong. We're just giving our opinions, whether they may exist or not. And what we think about it. So there you go. So guys, let's dive right into some topics, shall we? I know you guys are anxious to get into it. So while we're waiting on Bob, I know Bob wanted to do a lot of UFO stuff. So I'm going to kind of see if we can get Bob in here. But in the meantime, Bob was wanting to know, again, we have some topics that were submitted, and Bob was wanting to know really what the difference between remote viewing and psychics are, and are they interchangeable, so to speak? And how come they're not all? Like, is all psychics remote viewers, all remote viewers psychics, or is it just terminology? Stacy, why don't you take this one? You're our remote viewing expert.
Remote viewing, and first of all, everyone is psychic. Okay, you're born psychic. You're trained throughout your entire life to completely ignore any kind of intuitive or psychic ability. It's literally from birth. You're trained to ignore it. People who are usually in their youth are dealing with a lot of trauma. They tend to harness that as a protective mechanism. And to give an example, if dad is a drunk and a wife beater, and he comes home and beats the kids learn really quickly to develop that psychic ability to protect themselves in the event that is dad going to come home drunk? Do they need to hide under the bed? Do they need to essentially do these things to live, and as they grow older, they figure out that, look, this is real, and they become psychics. Remote viewing was developed by the United States military to harness that ability through the first 3 seconds of any situation, because that's when real data is actually acquired. Whenever you meet someone, that first 3 seconds, that impression that you get is more real than the next minute of how they try and blow sunshine up your backside. It is whether they're a good person or a bad person or something's weird about them, you get this vibe within that first 3 seconds. Remote viewing was created by scientists to harness that first 3 seconds by completely resetting over and over and over again that 3 seconds. Like, what do you feel? 3 seconds. What do you see? 3 seconds. What do you smell? 3 seconds. And you just go through this nut roll of all these first impressions through 45 minutes of basically a questionnaire. And at the end, you put it all together like a jigsaw puzzle to get your remote viewing target. And, through 20 years of experimentation by the military, they got some really hardcore data from spies that were in the government, Russian spies, nuclear submarines that weren't supposed to exist. They actually found they did exist. One submarine was the biggest submarine that had ever been built in Russia. Was being built inland, away from the shore, and the military intelligence initially thought that was bogus because nobody builds a submarine in the middle of the country.
Right.
Well, what happened was after it was built, they cut a canal from the middle of the country out to sea, and they launched this submarine. And it was, the biggest one that had ever been made. And the remote viewers in the program saw it being built and where it was being built. And it was all done by people who initially were as psychic as a rock. They were grunts in the military that they had taught this protocol of every 3 seconds, what do you see? What do you smell? What do you feel? And it created this big picture of whatever target they pointed them at. And essentially it took people who were as psychic as a rock to be more accurate than Nostradamus. So
well, can you imagine, not to interrupt you, but could you imagine being like that first guy, like the higher up chain of command that received the intel and was like, what? They said there's a sub being built in the middle of the country? Come on. Like they had to I'm sure once they found out, then it probably was like, wow, but can you imagine just that initial, like, come on, in the middle of Russia, really?
They actually had a term for it. It was called an 8 martini. Scientists were so blown away by the results of this stuff that they couldn't even believe it themselves, and they were watching it real time. They would go out afterwards and they'd, 8 martinis to try and calm down on what it is that they're dealing with. And General Stubblebaum is the one that was ahead of that program. And he was, first a skeptic, and then he was an absolute believer because they nailed so much that he couldn't deny it. So.
Yeah, that's awesome. I've heard a little bit about that program and some of the stories myself, but I love hearing about that stuff. It's so cool. Sean, I wanted to bring this to you. I know this isn't maybe your specialty, but one thing for sure, I wanted to know a little bit about what happens to people when, in your opinion, have you come across people that had those psychic ability? Like, how should people feel about that if they're going to, say, church and they start experiencing like psychic type abilities? How does that work in there? Because I know that in the past, I've personally, in one of the churches I attended in the past, somebody had that problem and was kind of told that they were kind of full of evil and, had to pray and had to be baptized again and stuff like that. But how is that kind of dealt with, or how should people feel when they discover these things? Should they feel bad?
I don't think they need to feel bad. I think that they need to, first of all, really begin to do some inner searching and really find people that can give them some insight. People like myself, and I'm not trying to blow myself up or anything like that, right, but just somebody that can talk you through the process. What I've seen happen time and time again in churches is people will have certain abilities, whether it be, being able to cognitively see things through time or through space, or even like type of remote viewing. I think that there is a natural ability there that we have to be careful with. And here's why I say that, because sometimes and I'm sure other folks will understand what I'm about to say. There are nefarious groups out there um, that are willing or looking for those people, and they are also looking for those people to exploit their gifting, if you will, into some nefarious ways. And so, what I try to tell people is to just at least seek out someone who understands what's really going on. And obviously, your most of your pastors are not going to obviously, especially Christian pastors, are not going to be able to understand some of this at a level. Um, but there are some of us Christian pastors out there who will be able to walk you through the process and be able to talk with you. But I don't think you need to feel bad at all. I don't think that there's anything inherently evil with some of these gifts.
So you bring up a good point, and I actually want to play on that too, and go back to Stacy. Stacy, so Sean brings up something too, which is remote viewing used for nefarious purposes. So are there, like we talk about organizations out there maybe used, in the government or in foot soldiers, things like that, training programs to enhance people's abilities. Is there sort of like these remote viewing wars kind of going on, like info wars happening or something? Can they block each other? Can you block remote viewing? And I mean,
No.
is there?
You can't block remote viewing.
Okay.
However, the universe, the big database in the sky that allows you to download the information in the first place, actually looks at the integrity of your project. So whatever you're doing, and I give an example. I have a course on what's associated remote viewing. It's called associated remote viewing, and you can use it for, say, sports gambling, horse gambling, betting on the ponies, different things of that sort. And when the gambling becomes all important, like the money is absolutely all important, it stops working. Remote viewing is the self-governing kind of thing, and I don't really know why. But whenever you start using it for wicked intent, it shuts down. It stops allowing you to get information, the information that you really want. Only when you're doing it for actual pure knowledge, scholastic, or entertainment, where it's just fun. I want to see who's going to win the next Super Bowl. But if you're like, I got to find out who's going to win the Super Bowl so I can make a lot of money. It doesn't work. The same thing with horse betting. When it becomes an absolute need to win, then it stops working. I don't know why, but there's this self-governing aspect within the universe where it prevents you from using it in a nefarious way, which is one of the reasons why it's no longer part of the military. They kept, trying to develop it and use it for war, and it stopped working for them. The last time it was actually used in a combat situation was in the Gulf War in '93, and it allowed the government to know when troop movements are going to be a good bet or a bad bet, essentially where to move them around. And they got to go. The team actually got medals for it, their participation in that conflict. But it stopped working when they tried to use it for global domination aspects.
Right.
Being able to hurt people. It stopped working. So they stopped the program.
Well, I think the fact that you talked about trying to achieve global domination actually leads in perfectly to another topic that we had gotten, that we received about. This is going to start diving a little bit into conspiracy theories. I think it's fun to touch on some of that. So I'm gonna kick it off with Sean, since we started with remote viewing with you, Stacy. Sean, conspiracy theory time. Global satanic cult. What's your take? You think there's a global satanic cult going on?
Well, there's a lot of things that would be, and that would kind of also this is where me and Stacy would probably disagree, because I would disagree with what he said last. But yeah, I think defining the term satanic and defining what kind of groups we're talking about. I know that there's different levels of the occult that are nefarious, and they do use remote viewing and they do use astral projection for nefarious reasons, and they're quite successful. Are they groups? Are they the Illuminati? The Illuminati was a real group. I don't know if they're still in power today. There's the 13 families you hear about. I don't know. I've never met one of them, so I don't know. I don't know if they're real or not, or if the family of 300. Some of the stuff that I deal with on a regular basis, I do work with helping people come out of what I would consider a satanic-based organizations, and it's not what a lot of people think it is. We're we're getting into organized crime. We're getting into topics that really will push the envelope on some of these things. But I do believe that your drug trade, your prostitution, your vices, child pedophilia, pedophiles, all of that is connected into satanic. In fact, I dealt with a guy here not too long ago that was coming in from deep in Colombia, from the jungles, and we've done a lot of different things with this guy, and he can tell you without a doubt that these drug cartels are employing high wizards and high different types of satanic side occultism to further their drug trade in front of their grip. Those are the kinds of things that I kind of think is real. But again, you get into some of the topics of Illuminati and the Bilderbergers and stuff like that. Now we're getting into stuff that I can't verify.
Yeah, and since I haven't given my opinion on anything yet, I would say when it comes to satanic cults, I'm going to keep my opinion brief real quick because I want to let Stacy talk a little bit about this. But it just seems to be that there's levels to everything. There's, and I don't want to bring up this. I don't want to throw these people in the shade, but it's kind of like the Freemasons to me. It's like there's like this certain community level, but I think the deeper you go, I don't know what goes on. I don't push to know. I don't want to know in a way, but I'm not saying that nefarious things happen, but definitely more and more mysterious things seem to happen the further you go up the level. So I think, in some degree, there's probably these kids that are out there sometimes playing around with Ouija boards and Satan books and getting into almost like gangs, but just having a different belief system than just a gang. They're using the Satanism as a form of an extra reason to be bad and have their gang, and it's about their family, in that sense, a surrogate family, and I'm sure, Sean, you probably know with that whole surrogate family thing.
I don't want to just jump in there, but where I was kind of going with that, and I didn't really mention it, but like if you study the Son of Sam murders, and I've actually worked some cases from Yonkers as well, but what you just said really was where I was going with. You got things like the Process Church, which is taking things from Satanism and Christianity, blending them together. Those are some real groups.
Right.
And I think that's what you were getting at. There's some real groups out there that's doing some things. But again, when you talk about the Freemasons, a lot of times Freemasons just good old boys.
Right. And like I said, I think there's levels and in different situations, and I think there's always a need. Human wise, we like to come together at some point or have a feeling of family. Again, this is like the whole theory of street gangs, and whether they're worshiping the leader, whether they decide to, in the name of, things were all in the name of Christ, in the name of whatever. It doesn't matter. Whatever it's in the name of, people are forming their community, their mini communities or mini surrogate families, whatever it is. But my point is, I think on a broader scale too, as we go up on a global scale, there does seem to be some of those really high up, ultra rich people that, let's face it, there's going to be those key families or something. Once you have control of something and you have that much power over things in the oil fields or oil in certain industries, whatever it is, if you control it, you do not want to lose that power. And even if you have to pretend like you lose it and you hand it over to somebody else or whatever it is. But there does seem to be some connections with some things. We had some people that come out recently and that were on the inside. They've come out. They were the whistleblowers. That was in deep on some of this stuff. I don't really want to say the name because of the way YouTube is, but the island. If you guys know what I'm talking about, the island seemed to have a central connection to some things, and I think that there is those schemes. I think that some of them do entrap some of their fellow rich people, and then they have them doing their bidding as well. And I think it's all about power. Whether the root of it is some, red devil with horns, at the root of all this, it's the cliche, right? The devil. Whether the devil is at the true base of everything or whether it's just the fact that, power and the situation of how society has developed over the years and this way the structure is and how, again, power and maintaining that power over people and wealth and things like that. And not even so much about the money, just the power. The money just comes with it. So that's just kind of like my overall opinion. I think it's there. I mean, it's just one of those things that, are we ever going to be able to tap into? I think we've come really close in this past year or so to really exposing it. Again, people are starting to finally come through and do a little bit of whistleblowing, but it's scary. So with that, I'm going to turn it over to Stacy. Stacy, what's your take on the global satanic cult?
Well, it really comes down to the wealthy have basically nothing else that's important to them in life. They've conquered the world, essentially. They have everything that they could ever possibly want. They can do whatever they could ever possibly do. And what's left is essentially moving and controlling people. Being able to play a game of, who controls what in what part of the world. It's a big game of Risk. If you remember that board game Risk, where you're just moving countries and troops around and, all of that. The good thing about all of this is that, these people, may not start out being evil, but what they do is evil. The benefit to humanity or the advantage that humanity has overall is these very same people are absolute morons. They are incredibly stupid people. The only reason they're in power in the first place is because they inherited the money. Very few people who are in, high levels of power got there on their own. Have you ever seen a turtle on a fence post? That's weird. It didn't get there on its own. It's not, familiar with its surroundings really, and it's just not right all the way around. And that's what the elite of the world are really like. I know some people in Skull and Bones from Yale, and they have the inside track on a lot of this kind of stuff. And I talk to them, and they're, as far as I've tried to actually get jobs, contract jobs as a remote viewer to some of these groups, and they're not interested, probably for the same reasons. They've already tried it and it doesn't work for them. What they use, believe it or not, are the really old pagan divination systems, like reading entrails and doing things like that to determine whether they're going to do one thing or another. They will have seances with with mediums that tell them, do this and do that. It's really old school on their form of how they, use divination, essentially. It's not the modern stuff with remote viewing. At least I haven't been able to get a foot in, and they know that I'm, really well versed in it. But they have no use for it because they already know that it's not going to work for them. That governor of the universe. But they use divination. They do talk to spirits. They do talk to wicked spirits. But it's all really old school stuff.
Okay. Yeah, well, and Sean, do you want to add something on that?
No, I think he made a good point. I mean, I think that's a fair assessment. I would agree with that. I mean, I think a lot of times with the things that I deal with, and I think that there needs to be said that there's hybrid remote viewing as well. There's different types of remote viewing. I've actually dealt with few that uses the old school, so to say, in the type that Ingo Swann even started kind of getting into that area as well.
Mm-hmm.
And so, because it does work both ways, according to Ingo anyway. But anyway, I would agree with that. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, I mean, and I wanted to add something, and I'm trying to remember what it was. No, there was something I wanted to add on when you were saying about, I kind of wanted, it was not so much I wanted to add, but so I guess in my line of thinking is also too, is I guess you said that they didn't always start out bad. And so I'm just thinking along the way at some point to achieve, whether it's inherited, whether when you're up there to sustain that, there's probably some bad things that happen. Okay. Oh, yeah. You don't stay in some of these ultra high levels of power without doing some bad things from time to time. So my thing is this, is it possible that if they didn't start out bad, along the way, it's kind of that thing where once you break the dam, it's like once you do something bad, just go for it, right? When, Thelma and Louise, I don't know, like once you do one bad thing, you just go for it, right? I guess. I don't know. That's why, I mean, is it that kind of ascent when they get to that, an ascent, but then at the same time descent in their soul? Is it because they know it's bad and it's easier for them to just turn to like a figure like Satan and just fully embrace the dark side, so to speak?
You talking to me?
Sure. Either one.
Well, it's I mean, think of it like Star Wars. Once you go down the path of the dark side, that right. dominates your life forever. People have a tremendous skill or ability to justify any action that they do. People who go down that path, Lucifer was the angel of light, the morning star. He was the illuminator, and that's where you get for the Illuminati and all of that. People who go down that path, they go to Lucifer saying that, he wasn't really the devil. That's more of a bad PR from the church. He was really the angel of light and the ones that are going to light their way. And in the meantime, he also gives them worldly power for, whatever sacrifices they may, conduct on innocent children and such.
Real quick, just wanted to say Taylor popped in and said, hi, everyone. And she said she was sorry that she was late. And she said, oh, no boob tonight. Talk about Bob. But yeah, honey, his audio was doing the demonic thing. And he said he was almost there, but apparently he's probably struggling trying to get whatever he's got going. So we'll hold out for him a little bit longer, but we'll probably go ahead and start diving into some of these topics. And maybe if he can get back on the next show or something, maybe we'll have him address a few of these things too. But a couple of the topics I wanted to get into for sure tonight, though, was the topic of UFOs and I guess life beyond. There's a couple of things I wanted to discuss on this. I guess one is there's of course all kinds of different views, whether it's a traditional like a science type view where you're looking at, hey, there's just other solar systems and there's got to be life and blah 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 and whatever, and then there could be other takes on dimensions and whatever, or maybe you're a flat earther and you think, hey, we're just in this dome and we're God's footstool. So in any case, maybe all of them are right, none of them are right. Who knows? Maybe we're all wrong, and maybe we're in some kind of weird hexagon. I don't know. But in any case, UFOs. First of all, let's just start basic. Should they be considered or classified as paranormal? Simple question. Sean, what do you think?
I think it should be classified as both. I mean, I think there's a mechanical side of it, and then there's definitely a paranormal side to it. I think there's the orbs and stuff. I've experienced 50-foot wide orbs, so I know it kind of freaks people out when I say that, but then I've experienced a craft that I've yet to see a picture of, and so am I crazy? No, I don't think so. I experienced brain fog when I seen that first craft, and it was a mechanical craft. Was it man-made? I don't know. Was it extraterrestrial? I don't know. But it was unidentified. I've never seen any picture of it, but I know that there's a spiritual component to it as well. So I would say kind of both and.
Okay, Stacy, what about you?
Well, it comes down to the definition of paranormal.
Right.
I mean, science is very protective of what it claims and what it's able to name and take credit for, and then everything else is paranormal. You have certain theories, different things of that sort, but they still pull that into science. Anything outside of what the grand poobahs of science say, that's paranormal.
Right.
And right now, they say UFOs don't exist, even though that the military is coming out and saying, yeah, they exist. Scientists are now trying to scramble to justify all of the years they've been pointing and laughing at the people who said they've seen them. Because, there comes a point, even in a court of law, you could prove definitively that UFOs exist. But science itself, until a grade comes down, sits on a face of a scientist and says, I exist, they won't believe it.
Right.
And, if we were in a different culture, in a different time, there's no difference between normal and paranormal. It's just normal.
Right.
So, into that.
I think for me, it's kind of simple. It's like, look, paranormal, above normal. Like, if it's not part of normal life, then why not? It can be called paranormal. It's not a big deal. To me, it's not a big deal. Like, if somebody says, if they put UFOs in the cat of paranormal, I don't care. I mean, that's cool. Like, it is. It's something above the normal of our lives. Over 100 years ago, just a little over 100 years ago, when we hadn't quite discovered silverback gorillas. I mean, think about that. That's not that long ago. 100 years, right? But can you imagine the people that experienced a silverback gorilla in the jungle, and they would come back and tell tales of this hairy, huge, grayish beast or something? I mean, how scary would that have been? And it probably would have been considered paranormal back then. Then it turns out to be real, and now silverback gorillas are a normal thing. So I would never consider them paranormal now. But if
That's
UFOs, just because the military said, yeah, they exist, okay, you said they exist, that's cool, but what are they? What are they? Like, do we have them? Do we have any? Like, there's a lot more to this. And so to me, they're still paranormal because they're still not, we don't know until UFOs become a normal part of our life and we all understand them and we all see them and we all, we physically have one at the Smithsonian or whatever it is, then I will say UFOs are normal. That's a normal thing. We're part of this, and now we're part of the Star Wars galaxy, and everything's normal. That's all I consider it as. It's just to be a pretty simple dividing line. All right, we might have Bob back. Let's see if we can get Bob in here. Bob, what's going on? Are you fixed? Oh. No audio, Bob. Yeah, I was really hopeful too. I was hopeful. Yeah, we're not getting anything from you, Bob. It's showing your mic's unmuted, so nothing. Yeah, nothing, Bob. Sorry. So we tried to get you on here tonight. I thought we worked this. I guess you and I are we're gonna have to work it out again. You and I are gonna have to try to figure it out because we had it for the last couple of these. You know, we had your audio going. So Terry Lynn said we're gonna have to drive to your house and fix your setup. We're just gonna have to make a trek out there and fix you all up. Bob's gonna start signing. All right, so you want to touch boobies? Okay, that's what I got from that. About B cup? What? I don't know. Anyways, all right, where are we going with this? All right, all right, Bob. We're gonna move on and keep talking. So if you want to work and hang out, or, but and I was trying to save you for the UFO stuff too, Bob. But we had to start talking about it. But we'll let you talk about it the next time too, for sure. And I know, so part of the whole UFO thing as well, with life beyond. I know that I guess there was a question about how does Jesus work into this with life beyond? Does Jesus arise on other planets? And, you know, is there the same sacrifice for the other planets? Does that all matter? Is religion different? Do they have the same God? How does some of that tie in? Do you even think about all that, Sean? What do you think? We're going to start with our religious expert.
Well, I don't know if I'm an expert. I wouldn't say that.
Don't sell yourself short. We're just saying that we're all experts.
Well, there's a lot of stuff that goes into that. You know, first of all, there's nothing in the scripture. I'm kind of pointing this out. It's not a part of your question,
right?
But I've had people say that Christianity doesn't deal. Even a lot of Christians say that Christianity doesn't deal with the idea of extraterrestrials, and therefore it's all a bunch of bunk. Well, actually, the Bible does not deal with it directly, but it doesn't. It also doesn't exclude it. And so, what I try to tell people with the question about Jesus and in all of those things, do we have humans on other planets? When we talk about the human condition of sin, God is everywhere. He's going to be putting that accountability no matter what planet you're on. The rules apply to each one, and so therefore, yeah, I mean, I think the idea of the sacrifice of Jesus on the cross to pay for the atonement of sins would apply to any human that would want to call out to him and ask for forgiveness. So I don't see where barrier 20 million light years away would stop that. There's nothing in scripture that would say that otherwise. Now, as far as other belief systems and other gods, again, I'm coming from a Christian point of view, so I'm not going to put down that there's not other types of demigods and stuff like that. Hear me out. In my opinion, they're fallen angels or angelic beings. They're all created by the same God. They're all under Him. So, with that understanding, I would just kind of put it out there that God's is responsible for all the other things, and we may not understand. I mean, there's one dude in the scripture that's like a cherubim or a seraphim that's got like 6 wings, and on the wings he's got eyes on each side of that wing. That's a freaky looking dude. You know what I'm saying? And so, we would consider that extraterrestrial if we actually saw that thing. So, the Bible actually deals with this in so many different areas, but I'm not going to take up the rest of the time on that.
Well, no, I think that's great, and I do like the fact that you brought up the six wing with the eyes, and I think like even the head wasn't like four different. Like
Yeah.
anyway, so
And that,
I
that deals with where he can go through past, future, and tense. I mean, he deals with different dimensions. Actually, the cherubims are and the seraphims are a different dimensional type of beings, and that's kind of where I was going with that. So.
yeah, I mean, and seeing that's cool stuff. I like that. That's the cool parts of the Bible that people overlook and they don't want to talk about it sometimes. And that's like some of the cool parts, man. Like, anyways, but yeah, I think that's cool that there's some of that. And because I don't think people realize too that angels don't look like us with wings. There's a reason why the angels were a little jealous because God made us in His image. But anyways, I just thought I'd throw that out there. But yes, I just want to, before I turn Stacy loose on this subject, because I know Stacy got some cool theories on this stuff too. I just want to say mine are pretty basic. I feel like it's possible, this is just some possibilities, but let's say there's other solar systems out there with life, with civilizations. It's possible that there is a different covenant with those planets for them to go to God. It could be the same God, just different covenants. And in this case, because of our situation, we didn't start out with a covenant through Jesus Christ. It started out before that, right? So, but things took different turns on our planet, and therefore He did send us His only begotten Son, right? So to me, this was our story. This was our earth, our covenant to God. But to me, it doesn't mean that there's not other life civilizations that maybe they had their own story and their own biblical story, and they have their own sort of version of like a Bible or something, and they have their own covenant to the same God that we may be under, right? And there could be some of these micromanagers or managers. I mean, if you look at the angels, there is a little bit of a tier system, with the watchers and things like that. So it would make sense that God would delegate some authority out to maybe some of these other, to these angels to oversee other planets and things too. So that's just, again, a little bit of my thoughts on just from what I witnessed. But Stacy, go ahead. What do you think about religion and other solar systems?
Well, I mean, you want to go on the biblical side of things. I mean, just
whatever you think.
Well, a few episodes ago, you were talking about the Book of Enoch.
Sure.
With the wheels and inside of wheels, and the angels coming down to mate with women because hey, women are hot. That kind of thing probably was, from a modern perspective, more of what we're seeing, a DNA hybrid situation where, if we have aliens coming down governing humanity on some level, they're experimenting to see how much they can push the genome in humanity. And they screwed up when they started creating giants, when they started creating chimera and all of these kinds of things, and they had to reset the board. Mankind in Noah's day couldn't understand the things that we even understand today, much less light years ahead of us on how they're able to crossbreed humans with wolves and jackals and all kinds of freaky stuff that it became more of a mythological legend than was actually deity. It was outside forces that started to interfere with what God would actually have for us. So basically, it comes down to God looked away for a hot second, and somebody came in and started screwing up the garden, You know, that's the way I see it.
Okay. So how do you feel about maybe other civilizations? Do you think that there would be a religious system on these other planets?
Oh yeah, absolutely. It That's not even like theorized on my part. Um, you can find video of, you know, from Area 51 and different things like that, where they're interrogating an alien, trying to get all the technology information out of him, and how does this thing work, and how does that thing work, and all of this. They wanted the hardcore data so they could weaponize the attack, and all the alien was talking about was the one, you know, the belief in the one. The one is paramount. Once you understand the one, you can, you know, manipulate and you can do all of these sorts of things. But you need to understand who the one is, you know, that kind of thing. And they talked in religious sense and religious terms whenever the military wanted to get tech information. So, you know, yeah, they've got religion. They just see it as the one rather than the Trinity, so to speak.
Yeah.
Well, I think it's a good point here to say this too, Josh, is, you know, how many religions on earth here today? If there's that many religions on this earth, there will be millions of religions on another planet as well. And that should tell some folks things about what can be possible out there.
Oh yeah. I mean, certainly, and I think it's interesting that I think it's interesting the different viewpoints. And again, this is now I'm gonna put this disclaimer before I say this, because whenever we talk about this stuff, it's always going to be sensitive material. But I'm just going to say this, like, just as an observation. And again, but I think it's neat when we have the different viewpoints of the different interpretations, where some people may say, well, these fallen angels would look like aliens. Therefore, there's this, could it have been aliens? But then we also have the opposite of these things would look like aliens, but in fact they're fallen angels. And it's really cool to see the different viewpoints of how it would be perceived, because you're right, and I think either one could work, because again, and I think also obviously it comes as a choice of faith, right? If you believe it's the angels, then it's going to be the angels. If it's your viewpoint of, well, people probably thought they were angels, but they weren't. They were just aliens because they look like aliens. They didn't look like us. And of course, angels don't look like us. So I mean, again, we're just in that cycle of that. No one side truly could really win this. I don't think, as far as and that's why I think there's always been this debate over the years, and hundreds of thousands of years, right? So, but I think it's cool. I do, and I love the fact that I do believe that yes, there is for sure this God that ties everything together. I believe in God, period, because I just don't see. I'm sorry, but there has to be something. There has to be a start. I don't believe in this Big Bang theory, because there had to be something before that. I mean, I don't know. I just don't buy that. I don't know. There had to be, and I think there is some God. I do at least believe that. So on UFO stuff, I want to also talk a little bit about the personality dynamic. I think this was brought up as well. Is UFO hunters versus ghost hunters. What do you think? You think there's a huge difference, or I mean, would that be insulting to lump them together? Who wants to take it first?
Well, I'll go first.
All right.
Personally, my experience has been that ghost hunters actually like to use scientific evidence. You get the gamut with it, but they actually use EVPs. They have the video recordings. They've got all of this equipment that verifies what it is that they're experiencing. At the end of the day, UFO hunters leave exactly the way they went in, with nothing. They may get some Christmas tree lights off in the distance or whatever, but most of them, the large majority of them, there are exceptions to the rule. like Bob Lazar. He's honest to God legitimate, but most of them are batshit crazy. And I can honestly say that the people who are more earthbound are the ones that actually, go after the spirits, the hunters of ghosts, than the hunters of UFOs.
Okay. So basically, to sum it up, you think that the UFO people have a little more crazies in their stable.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. I mean, I can see I can see that. Sean?
Well, I don't know. I mean, I'm kind of neither in those camps, so I don't have a lot of. I do have a couple experiences. I know probably you guys know what I'm talking about with the Brown Mountain Lights down in North Carolina. I'm not far from that Brown Mountain, and I've actually been out there. And what's been interesting is I've been there doing some on-site investigations into some ritual stuff and stuff that was happening there. Also kind of come in contact with several different people. One was a UFO hunter, which was kind of odd that he was actually at this location. And then there was, hey, there's Bob.
Bob. Wait, did you dress up? Did you just dress up? What was that saying? Maybe if you talk really fast, it will sound normal. Well, at least when you laugh, you just provide the laugh. Whenever we do something funny, you provide that deep demonic laugh. That's good comedic timing right there. It's still demonic voice, though.
It sounds like hell speak.
I know. We'll have to figure that out, though. So tonight's show, we're bringing on the devil himself, and this is going to be our interview.
I've always had some questions for you guys.
Right. Right. We got some questions. And tonight, the part of Bob will be played by. Yes, sorry, Bob. I feel so bad. We're definitely gonna have to work it out with your audio, though. We're gonna have to fix it somehow. I thought we got past it. Oh goodness. All right. Well, crap. Well, so anyways, so we're sorry about that. I guess we tried.
I'm still waiting to hear the end of Sean's story.
Well,
Yes.
so we had two or three different types of people. One was a UFO hunter, which was very unusual because that's not really. I go down there and mountain climb some too, and it was kind of funny. You see a lot of ghost hunters, a lot of people looking for the lights. If you don't know about Brown Mountain Lights, there's a lot of lights that hit the top of the hills, a lot of orbs, big orbs, some small, but most of them 10-foot range, depends on what they are. And there was one UFO hunter down there, and he was really interested and into it. But again, I think that I kind of agree with Stacy on this one, that a lot of the UFO hunters that I come in contact with are kind of out there. I'm gonna be honest.
I mean, and the people I've run across over the years with being in this industry, like being in the ghost hunting side of things, and then coming across some, I think you do have a little bit of a separation. Now there is some people that just investigate all types of paranormal, which is what I used to do that for a little bit. I always tried to be open-minded for everything, kind of look toward the stars and stuff a little bit, but eventually you pretty much focus on one sort of aspect, you start kind of specializing or something in one part of things. But I do say that, yes, it does seem like some of the UFO hunters seem to be a little more out there than ones that are a little more grounded in like Stacey said, the earth base. So I think we all seem to be pretty much on the same page for that one.
I think I would also maybe interject with this, maybe. to say it this way. I think with most of the ghost hunters that I've come involved with are opened in I don't want to say this in a bad way, but they're not as religious. It seems to me that a lot of the UFO hunters are more into types of religion and very closed-minded. And I know, again, I'm making a generalization, and I know there's, like Stacy said, there's good people also in the UFO industry, but for the most part, to me, it just seems like that the ghost hunters are a little bit more open to different belief systems than the UFO hunters.
Yeah, it's very new age religion in the UFO community, and while you get that in the ghost hunters, they're not. I have, my experience has been that they have to leave themselves open to possibilities because the spirits they're dealing with, just like people, have different religious beliefs themselves. So they have to, if they're going to perform an exorcism on a spirit that is, Son of Sam, you have to know what the religion of the Son of Sam is in order for it to be effective. It's you come in out of left field and they're going to look at you like, what are you doing? As far as the spirits are concerned. So you got to be open to different belief systems in order to, work your own magic. UFO hunters, on the other hand, are waiting for Zoltar to come down and, teach them all that is wonderful about the universe. And, it's not like that at all. I mean, I've got a course on aliens in remote viewing, where you can remote view different targets that are in the media, or even from, Operation Blue Book. Was this a real UFO, or was it man-made? Was it fake? What was it? What are you looking at? And they do it blind, so they don't even know what the target is when they run the session. And then they, at the end, find out what the target is. They're like, oh my God, I had no idea that's what that was. And, at that point, they're either convinced that remote viewing is actually getting to the heart of it, or they go off on a weird religious thing all by itself. They start worshiping remote viewing as that it's a religion, and it's not. It's a skill like playing the piano. But that aspect, as soon as you introduce aliens to anything, you have one kind of personality that looks at it in a very practical fashion. And then you have the other side that just really goes way out there, and you're like, no, you need to come back to Earth.
So, okay, I just thought of this too that I wanted to throw on you guys, is in this same subject. So, when we have aliens portrayed in movies, most of them are here for our resources. There's always a reason. They come here. It's usually they want our resources, whether it's harvesting us, energy, air. Whether it's the Mega Maid, whatever it is, whether that's Mega Maid to suck our air out, whatever it is, they're here to harvest something from Earth, typically, or just be overall bad. But do you honestly think that an advanced species of aliens, would you not think that their evolution of society would be similar to ours, where you overall have to have sort of the scale tipped a little bit in the side of good just to function as a society? Would you think it'd be the same similar thing? So you would think that on average that they would probably send their version of like NASA to us, and they would be almost like astronauts or something in that sense, and represent their planets for good. And I try to look at the positive side, not the Hollywood side. But if you just look at it on an evolutionary scale, we evolved a certain way. Like, yeah, there's evil in the world and there is bad things, but overall as a society, we get along for the most part. And that's how society stays together and just doesn't crumble apart. So I would think it'd be similar on an alien, another planet. Sean, what do you think? Start with you.
Oh, well, I don't know. I've listened to some different people with this. I know. I think I would probably kind of come back and say it this way. Um, I think advanced civilizations still have evil. I think advanced civilizations will still have good. They'll still be good and bad. And I think that, however, again, I think you hit something important, the purpose. Why are they here? Are they looking at what we're doing, or, what's the purpose? If the purpose is, and that's the question, what would their purpose be? So I think some of it may be, fact finding. What are we doing? What kind of species we are? But also, I think they're also looking at what our weaknesses would be, how to kill us quick. That's just my opinion.
Stacey, what do you think? What are the overall alien society?
Well, I think you're onto something as far as, because even on alien worlds, you're going to have different levels of advancement. And even the evolution of those species isn't going to be humanoid the way we see it. They're going to be, whatever they would have evolved from. Like there's the blue avians on one side, you have the lizard people on the other side, you have the grays, which aren't really alive in the sense that we understand things. A lot of the testimonials come about of the grays and the autopsies and things of that sort. They don't even have organs. They're more AI genetic wetware than actual living things. They're programmed to be what they are. And if you would cut a gray in half, it closer resembles a carrot than it does a living organism the way we understand it, because it's artificial, and most of the stuff on the inside is just to keep it motivated. But again, this is what whistleblowers have come out and said. I can't verify that.
I hope not, because that's kind of a buzzkill. You're like, they sent these AI bots. Yay.
Well, guardians, the watchers essentially is what they are. But at the same time, you have higher level enlightened beings that look at us from afar, while the lizard people want to take us for our resources and all that. Aliens refer to us as smart monkeys. We aren't really on their level yet. We're for whatever reason, smart monkey is the moniker that they give us, which isn't all bad. It's better than tasty monkey, but
This is like Signs versus V.
Essentially, Hollywood tries to emulate a lot of this stuff as it comes out too. They get little stories from, their CIA, and they, run with it. Like what I said before, with the Stargate program was a remote viewing program, but they turned around and made a movie with, an actual ring that people went through to travel to different planets. The program was real, just not the way Hollywood produced it.
Right. Well, yeah, I mean, Hollywood definitely has a way of taking a based on true story, and it's like one little thing. A guy had a cup of coffee. Hey, based on a true story, this guy really had coffee. The rest of the whole 99% of the movie, completely fake. But yeah, I just thought about it. This is stuff I've thought about too in the past. It's just like, what would be an alien race's natural progression? And obviously, even if they were more advanced, at some point, again, they're going to probably have different personalities. I mean, unless they were like a hive mind type of species. But even then, I'm not sure if that would necessarily get them to that advanced space travel age. I think one of the things that has allowed us to evolve is the fact that we have a lot of individual personalities and that we're not a hive mind. And I do understand that the hive mind could technically maybe get some things more accomplished or whatnot. But I just think in terms of innovation and technology and advancement, I think having individual minds and pushing the barriers individually and going against the norms. Some of our great inventions were, happened when they weren't supposed to. They weren't allowed to have some of those inventions exist. but the inventors pushed forward, kind of broke the law sometimes, or broke the dictators' beliefs. And here we are with technology, certain technologies, even if it could be reverse engineered from alien spacecraft. I'm not saying that. I'm just saying our own personal evolution, whether it was from that, but even just going all the way back, just our. And so I think that, to me, in advanced civilization, that aliens would again have their own individual personalities and thrive to. They would have their smart ones. They would have a similar system, because I just think it sort of seems to be natural. If you took away all the society's laws and everything else, I think eventually we'd find our way back to here, in the same similar predicament, just with different faces and different buildings and who knows, different looking stuff. But ultimately, we're going to have a society, like a group of, we're going to have laws, because there's going to be a trade system, a barter system. We're always going to have that. If you took all that away, there's going to be a time when, if we're all out in the woods like hippies, and we all have our little commune, there's going to be some point where you're going to have something that I really want and you don't really want to part with, so I'm going to have to pony something up, and we're going to have a barter. We're going to trade, and then you're going to trade with me, and then thus trade is born again. and then Sean's going to say, well, you know what? I really like what Josh has. I want to get that from him, so let me pony up something, or let me kill him. And then rules are and society and laws. So I think, again, we're always going to find our way back to a society. And I think the same thing would apply to an alien species, that they too will have their same thing, where they will forage for their supplies. They were primitive. They found ways to protect themselves, start trading with others like themselves, built a language system. I just think that's part of just natural progression for intelligent species to progress.
Well,
go ahead, Steve.
Coming back to the whole idea of the hive mind, we do have that. Not in the sense that we're all connected via Bluetooth, but we have what's known as the zeitgeist. It is human consciousness essentially communicates globally all the time.
Right.
They've done tests with this with the FBI, with reducing terrorism just by having large groups of people meditate at particular times around the world, reduces the urge to destroy in these times of meditation. They've done the 100 monkey experiment, where they've had a bunch of monkeys on all these different islands that were separated from each other. They dropped coconuts on the islands, and they counted that once 100 monkeys had figured something out with being able to open up the coconuts, simultaneously at the same time, the rest of the monkeys on all the other islands figured it out too. It's like suddenly they were inspired by the same idea all at the same time, once a certain threshold had reached a point of consciousness.
Sure. I think we call it spirituality. I think the spiritual network. That's what I call it, the spiritual network. We're all connected on a spiritual level, and that's what I call that. But I guess, just to interject real quick, and you can continue on with this, is I think what I was specifically talking about is that, like Independence Day aliens, where they're like the queen, and there's this interconnected hive mind in a stronger sense, a more overpowering, right, where they're more robotic. I just don't buy that as much as I do. I think there would be more personalities, even if we all are connected in some way. But anyways, go ahead.
Well, I was just going to say that idea of the zeitgeist, where we're all connected, even on an unconscious level, that's actually used by these elite organizations, these global elite who want to control us all. They throw different little propaganda things out into the consciousness, whether it basically to divide us, because as long as we're divided, we don't actually sync up and overthrow them. So if we're able to go after, different genders or different races and different political ideologies, we're able to fight amongst ourselves. We're never allowed to sync up and actually take control of our own world. And that's what you know that. and that's what they use to essentially keep us under heel. And it's the zeitgeist that they're afraid of the most, truly.
Okay. Well, we got Bob in the chat here, in the eternal chat. But Bob wants to participate. But Bob did say, why would aliens come all that way to get our resources when they most likely pass all kinds of uninhabited planets that is closer and no species to fight? Well, I want to take this first, and I want to just say that I think that if you look at terms of Hollywood, I think that what Hollywood has done is shown that whenever you have that scenario, it means that they have made their way to other planets, and they have, like locusts, used up that planet and moved on to the next, and we're just like the next in line or something. So hopefully that might answer the question. Or again, it could be the fact that because of our atmosphere, our water, we may be the closest green planet, right? Or whatever was it, class 3 planet, whatever they call it. So, that could be why too. So that's just me. If you guys want to take this.
Yeah, you nailed it.
Okay. Nailed it. Yeah. First try. All right. So, but yeah, I mean, these are all just my personal theories, guys. Again, I don't know. I just feel like in the construction of a society, I think that the aliens will experience something similar. Therefore, when they get here, or if they've already been here, I mean, I don't know at this point. I would like to say I do believe that some of the stuff is true. I'm just not convinced yet. I do believe that I would be naive to think that life doesn't exist in this vast universe, especially as wonderful as God is, and in my opinion. I think that yes, God, there is life other places. As far as why they would come here and play hide and seek with us, that's weird to me. I don't know. Maybe you guys have your theories on it. I'm sure there's probably some good theories out there. I've heard some different things. But to me, I think when they show up, we're going to probably know it for sure. Mm-hmm. Yeah, these could be scouts, could be reconnaissance. I mean, there's, again, a lot of places. We don't just always show right up to a planet, just like with Mars. We're sending rovers. We're sending other things besides ourselves. So it's possible that whatever these things are, whether they're a gray carrot, they could be the scouts. They could be the rover, right? The intelligence that's being sent to gather intelligence and go back, or for them to observe through these gray carrot type vessels. I mean, I'm just saying, I'm trying to use, Stacy's, when he's talking about the grays, if they are programmed, so to speak, they may not be the actual alien race. That the actual alien race may not have even been here yet. These are all just they're reconnaissance stuff. So,
well, according to science, the revised Drake equation, there are 36 advanced civilizations in our galaxy, based off of the data and all the exoplanets, and they do all this.
See, 35.
What's that?
You said 35.
36.
36.
Yeah.
Odd number to be just 36.
Yeah, but that's based off of their math. Of course, science is always evolving, and they say that 80% of the universe consists of dark energy, and it exists absolutely everywhere except right here. Except right here. Everywhere in the whole universe is 80% dark energy except right here. So they're still trying to find dark energy and dark matter, much less alien civilizations.
Aren't they creating it?
Yeah. But, that's what science says right now with the Drake equation. And they're going to revise that number a lot.
Yeah.
But, who knows?
I know there's dark matter. It's in DC. Anyways, but yeah, if I think, 36, it's interesting how they have the math. I think if I was to use stats and math, I would probably say 80% of most scientists don't know what they're talking about when it comes to universal theory. I would believe people like yourself over scientists most of the time, because I'd rather take a remote viewer, their word for it, than some of these science guys, because I mean, I'm telling you, I saw an article in a magazine where it had caught my eye because it was one of those magazines you're sitting there like at a dentist office, and it was just like scientists discover life after death or something like that. I was like, what? No way. But it was, of course, it was just a clickbait type thing, right? And well, not clickbait because you couldn't click on the magazine, but you know what I mean. It just suckered you. And of course, you look at it, and all it is some famous scientist who was famous in the world of AIDS and HIV research decided to one day decide he wanted to tackle the afterlife theories and put together this whole theory about energy and infinite versus indefinite energy and all this other stuff. It's like in the end, I could just sum it up by saying, "That's your opinion, dude. It's not a fact. It's not scientific. It's not proven. It's just your theory."
Yeah, you have to reach a point where you're looking at somebody who's just, working on cerebral masturbation. He has all of this math that is how he defines the world, and suddenly comes across something that math can't define. So it makes them lose their noodle.
Yeah. That's why I don't ever partake in cerebral masturbation.
Yep.
Good night, Christian.
Do what, huh? Oh. Oh, everyone say good night to Christian. He's going to bed. Good night, son. I love you. I guess it's that time, huh? I guess it's about that time for us to start wrapping things up. We've had a pretty good show. Unfortunately, we didn't have Bob tonight. I think Bob would have been a great addition to this. And although he did provide a few comedic moments throughout. So, Bob, we thank you for, even though your stuff didn't work, it did work, surprisingly, in a few moments. So, Bob, that's all right. Like I said, we'll get together, and you and I, maybe we'll try to work it out again, see if we can't get you going for sure. But other than that, what do you guys have any parting words about aliens or UFOs? Or we really had this whole religion and alien thing tonight, which is pretty cool. I like going back and forth to that. I think it's pretty cool how we really talked about both sides of those things. So glad to hear you comment, dear. Laugh out loud, side Chief Josh. Well, I don't know what I said. I don't know. You have to tell me later. I don't even think, honey. When I'm on, I just say things. I don't even think. But anyways, I do like how we did discuss both sides of things. I think we covered most everything that we were looking at. There's some things we'll save for next episode. I think one of the things I want to talk about next time we get together is some spirit bondage, like genie stuff, right? I think Stacy was talking about possibly that. Maybe getting into some tragedy stuff with famous ghost hunters, like the murder, suicide, mental disorders, weird misfortunes. I think if you guys have some good examples, or if you do any research by the next show, I think that. And then also, I know there was some conversation about post-rapture, what life might be like, what maybe the bodies left behind, if our spirits are those that are taken up in the rapture. So, Sean, there's some things we can discuss of some post-rapture life for those of us that probably are going to go to hell. We probably want to know what it's like to after the rapture, what it's like, or are we post-rapture already, possibly somehow? I think we can get into all that on the next episode. I just wanted to tease that out there to some people. So if you guys want to know a little bit about those things and some theories or our opinions on those, then make sure you guys join us next time. And next month, we are looking at probably not doing on the last Thursday next month. So pay attention. If you guys like watching the Paranormal Council, we may look at doing the 22nd of July, which is like the third Thursday of the month or something like that. So, Bob, if you're watching, check your calendar for the 22nd. Make sure you're available because I think Sean and Stacy are going to be out of town that weekend. So we may just do it that previous Thursday, folks. So make sure you tune in. And as always, Seek the truth. We'll see you guys in the next episode. Good night.